Discovery now has crossed Louisiana and is now crossing the border between Louisiana and Mississippi. Should cross the Mississippi Gulf Coast around Bay St. Louis and then head out across the Gulf of Mexico. Present altitude is 180,000 feet or 33 miles. Range to the landing site 617 miles. Time to touchdown 13 minutes 25 seconds. Discovery is now traveling 8,000 miles per hour. Time to touchdown 13 minutes. The orbiter is now crossing out over the Gulf of Mexico. Headed toward a touchdown on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's mission will be the 49th shuttle flight to end with a landing in Florida. The 49th of 96 shuttle missions. And Discovery is now midway across the Gulf of Mexico. 11 minutes to touchdown. Range to the landing site 340 miles. Discovery's altitude is 154,000 feet. Discovery's in the second roll reversal.
Discovery Houston, energy, ground track, and nav are go. Take TAC in.
Copy, energy, ground track, nav, go, taking TAC in.
Discovery's onboard guidance system now reading data from tactical air navigation systems at the landing site. Time to touchdown 10 minutes 20 seconds. Range 270 miles. Standing by for the final roll reversal. This is the third roll reversal, which is a left to right turn. That occurring at Mach 4.4. The orbiter is currently traveling at Mach 6, or about 4,000 miles per hour. Currently at an altitude of 130,000 feet. Range to the landing site 200 miles. Time to touchdown 9 minutes 15 seconds. The Discovery is now crossing the Florida coastline on the west coast of the state. Time to touchdown 8 minutes. Traveling 2,800 miles per hour. Discovery's at an altitude of 110,000 feet. Now 125 miles from the landing site. The third and final roll reversal has been commanded by the onboard software.
Disregard.
The two air data probes have been deployed on the orbiter's nose. These taking real-time air samples and providing that to the onboard navigation system. Standing by for control to be transferred to the Terminal Area Energy Management.
Houston, take air data.
Discovery copies, taking air data.
And that air data is now being taken through the air data probes on the orbiter, passing that data in through the guidance system. Time to touchdown 6 minutes 40 seconds. Range from the landing site 16 miles. Discovery's altitude is down to 87,000 feet. And Discovery is now 74 miles from the landing site. By comparison, at this point, a commercial airliner would still be at altitude at about 25,000 feet.
Discovery Houston, nominal energy approaching the hack. Winds are now 2506 peak 9. That'll be all left crosswind. Nominal shoot deploy.
Discovery copies the weather and nominal shoot deploy.
Approaching 5 minutes from touchdown, Discovery's altitude is down to 70,000 feet, or 13 miles, with a range of 70 miles from the landing site. Speed is down to 1,000 miles per hour. Now 4 minutes 30 seconds from touchdown, a range to the landing site 33 miles. Discovery's altitude is 55,000 feet. This view is looking straight out the forward window of the orbiter through the pilot's head-up display system, showing the altitude scrolling by on the right side with the of course, the darkness, this view will come into, we'll see the landing site as the orbiter begins its swing around the heading alignment circle. Commander Kurt Brown has now taken over manual flying of the orbiter as it approaches the heading alignment circle. 20 miles from the runway now at an altitude of 36,000 feet. At this altitude, a commercial airliner would still be 75 miles from the runway. Discovery is now 17 miles from the runway, completing the wide turn around the heading alignment circle, setting up for the final approach and landing.
Discovery Houston, on at the 180.
Copy, on at the 180.
Infrared cameras capturing Discovery's final approach and landing with about 2 minutes to go to touchdown. And range from the landing site 13 miles.
Discovery Houston, on at the 90. Tire message is a deucer, no action. It may toggle on.
Copy, on at the 90.
Under 2 minutes to touchdown now. Discovery's altitude 17,000 feet. At this point in the flight of a commercial airliner, the landing gear would be down.
Roger, Discovery field in sight.
And Commander Kirk Brown reports he can see the runway. The next step will be the pre-flare maneuver to set up for the final approach and landing, with pilot Scott Kelly putting the landing gear down at about the altitude of 300 feet. Commercial airliners landing gear would be put down about 2 minutes out, with the altitude being anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 feet by comparison. The orbiter's sync rate is down to 124 feet per second, or miles per hour, or 177 feet per second at a 19-degree glide slope. A commercial airliner would be at about a 2-degree glide slope. Pre-flare maneuver now at the and the landing gear is now down and locked. Main gear touchdown. And nose gear touchdown. Discovery rolling out on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center, following a 3.25 million mile journey to restore the Hubble Space Telescope back to full service. This is the 20th landing in a row at the Kennedy Space Center and the 49th to return to Florida in the history of the Space Shuttle program.
Houston Discovery, we'll stop.
Roger, we'll stop, Discovery. Welcome back to Earth after a fantastic flight. We have no deltas. We'll meet you on page 5-3 for the post-landing.
Copy, 5-3, no deltas.
Discovery now has completed its 27th voyage in space, the 96th mission in the shuttle program. The convoy team now moving into place around the orbiter as it sits on the concrete runway of the shuttle landing facility at the Kennedy Space Center. Crew members now will go through safing procedures for the next 30 to 40 minutes or so before climbing out of the orbiter to ensure that Discovery is in a safe configuration before handing the vehicle over to the convoy team.
Houston, we need RAD reconfig now on page 5-8 at the top of the page.
Copy, page 5-8 in work.
The venting that you see on either side of the tail is the APU steam vents, those located on either side of the vertical tail of the orbiter, as the auxiliary power units are venting the steam out those vents. If folks remember, Steve Smith commented from high atop the Hubble Space Telescope looking down at those that he had never seen them from that angle before during the third spacewalk of the mission.
Houston, on page 5-8, we're ready for ammonia activation. It should be ammonia controller Bravo, use secondary on.
Houston, that is complete.
Roger, Discovery.
And we'll be standing by the start blocks if required.
Roger, Discovery.
Houston, ET umbilical doors are coming open.
Roger, Discovery. Max is watching.
This is Mission Control Houston with the landing times for Discovery. Discovery's main gear touched the runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center at 6 o'clock even and 47 seconds. Central Standard Time. That's at a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, 47 seconds. The nose gear touchdown at 6 o'clock and 58 seconds Central Time. At a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 58 seconds. And the wheel stop was reported at 6 o'clock, 6:01 and 34 seconds Central Time. Had a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 11 minutes, and 34 seconds. So again, Discovery's mission ended at 6:01 p.m. Central Time, with main gear touching down at 6 o'clock and 47 seconds. At official mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 47 seconds. Crew on board now continuing through the post-landing safing of the orbiter, and that will go on for the next 30 or 40 minutes before the crew is given a go to exit the vehicle for their routine medical examinations, and then eventually a walk around of the orbiter, which is expected by all 7 crew members. We do expect comments from the crew members by a microphone that will be set up near the orbiter. And that should be coming up in the next hour to hour and 15 minutes or so. And we also will hold the traditional post-landing news conference from the Johnson Space Center in that time frame. And if one or the other is going on, we obviously will hold the press conference until the walk around, or if the press conference is underway and the walk around by the crew occurs during the press conference, we will obviously replay the crew's walk around of the orbiter after their medical checkups.
Houston Discovery, the RJDs are offside hatch, drag chute, and landing gear are safe.
And Discovery Houston, we copy. Thank you. Discovery Houston, you have a go for SSME repositioning to the rain drain position.
Copy the rain drain position.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're watching Discovery through infrared camera as the crew on board continues to go through safing procedures inside the orbiter while the convoy team continues to assess the health of the vehicle from the outside. And while we continue to watch over the crew's shoulders through the safing procedures, we'll take an opportunity to take time out and look at the different landing views that were available and recorded from the Kennedy Space Center during the final minutes of the Discovery's approach and landing.
Houston Discovery, we're complete with SSME repo.
Discovery Houston, we concur. You have a go for APU hydraulic shutdown.
Copy, go for APU high shutdown.
Discovery Houston, you have a go to DOF suits.
Discovery copies, go to DOF suits.
Discovery Houston, you are go for extended power up and go for vent door purge positioning.
Okay, Discovery's copies, go for extended power up and go for vent door purge positioning. And Houston, APU high shutdown is complete.
Roger, Discovery.
Discovery post-landing MPS-3 config and work.
Discovery Houston, booster copies and is watching.
Houston, vent door purge positioning is complete.
Discovery Houston, we concur. Discovery Houston, we'd like you to take GPC 5's mode switch to standby for the dump.
Okay, take GPC number 5 to standby. Here goes.
And Discovery Houston, we're ready for GPC 5, mode switch, back to run.
Copy, GPC 5, back to run, here it comes. And Houston Discovery, we're ready to take water pump loop number 1 to on if you concur.
Discovery Houston, we concur. We are ready.
Houston Discovery, we show all actions complete except for egress, and we're ready to hand it over to the ASP if you're ready.
In Discovery Houston, we concur. All actions are complete. We'd just like to get a comm check with the ASP before you sign off.
That's affirmative. We'll stand by. I just want to make sure that you knew where we were.
Roger, Kurt. Thanks for the tag up. And Discovery Houston for the ASP. Say again.
Houston ASP, comm check.
And Discovery ASP, we had you loud and clear that time. Thank you. Good check. And Discovery Houston, we show all crew actions complete as you noted, and we are ready for crew egress.
And Houston Discovery crew egress is in work.
And Discovery ASP from Houston, expect about 10 minutes prior to the ammonia reconfig.
As copied.
This is Mission Control Houston. While safing of the orbiter continues, I'd like to pass along that the post-landing news conference from the Johnson Space Center is currently scheduled for 7:15 this evening Central Time, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And the participants for that briefing will be Shuttle Program Manager Ron Dittemore. He'll be joined by Entry Flight Director Wayne Hale, who has overseen not only the launch of Discovery on this mission, but also the landing. And as soon as the orbiter is turned over to the ground operations team at the Kennedy Space Center, these two gentlemen will be able to leave the flight control room and head over to the press room. So the approximate start time for the post-landing news conference is 7:15 p.m. Central Time, 8:15 this evening Eastern Time. On board, the astronauts are continuing to wrap up safing activities of the orbiter and begin climbing out of the orbiter and into the crew transport vehicle for routine medical checkups before hopefully coming out and conducting a walk around of the vehicle, saying a few words before departing for the astronaut crew quarters. This is Mission Control Houston. We're hearing words now that all 7 astronauts are now off of Discovery and in the crew transport vehicle. The safing operations by the crew of Discovery is completed, and very shortly Flight Director Wayne Hale will be able to hand over the safing operations to the ground operations team at the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's mission, again, very successful. Servicing of the Hubble Space Telescope for the 3rd time. The landing time for Discovery, 6:01 p.m. Central, 7:01 this evening Eastern Time on the 2nd of 3 landing opportunities available today. And all on that 2nd landing opportunity went very smoothly. So with that, we'll sign off from the Johnson Space Center and from Mission Control and hand over the ground safing operations of Discovery to Bruce Buckingham and the folks at the Kennedy Space Center. This is Mission Control Houston.
This is ground control at Kennedy Space Center as we continue with our safing operations following our successful landing of Discovery about 45 minutes ago. Landing occurred just shortly after 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. This was the second opportunity to land tonight. The first opportunity was waved off due to high winds, crosswind component violations at the shuttle landing facility. However, as the sun dropped in the sky, the winds dropped as well, and we were able to come in on our second opportunity. The crew is off the vehicle at this point. They are in the crew transport vehicle where they are in the process of removing their launch and reentry suits. It's a lot easier to do it in the CTV as opposed to trying to do it in the orbiter itself. Now that the orbiter is on the ground, again, safing operations have commenced, and the vehicle is being prepped for its post-landing operations. Along with the crew transport vehicle, other KSC landing convoy operations have been stationed around the orbiter. They've been on call since the launch of Discovery. The primary function of the Space Shuttle Recovery Convoy is to provide immediate service to the orbiter after landing, also to assist crew egress and to prepare the orbiter for towing to the orbiter processing facility. Towing to the OPF is set to begin at about midnight tonight. Following that, the residuals of the cryogenics will be offloaded, as well as the residuals of the hypergolics that were used in the orbiter's maneuvering systems. All that will be offloaded prior to actually turning the vehicle off, powering it down as we approach the end of the year. The shuttle landing facility where the vehicle touched down tonight was built back in 1975. It is 300 feet wide and about 15,000 feet long with 1,000 foot overruns on each end. The strip runs southeast to northwest and is located about 3 miles northwest of the vehicle assembly building. Again, our convoy commander is taking charge of the transfer operations as we continue to safe the vehicle in anticipation of a tow to the orbiter processing facility in just over 4 hours. Meanwhile, we're standing by as the crew have entered the crew transport vehicle where they are removing their launch and entry suits. And we anticipate that they'll be climbing down the stairs from that CTV in a matter of a few minutes. Typically, the standard process is for the crew members to walk around the orbiter to inspect the vehicle that was their home for the past 8 days. And we also anticipate that the crew will make use of a microphone that's been set up at the shuttle landing facility where they can make a brief statement, each of them perhaps making a brief statement regarding their most recent mission. Once that's complete, the astronauts will be driven to their crew quarters back in the crew transport vehicle, and they will visit with their families back at the operations and checkout building where their crew quarters are. They will undergo a number of relatively unobtrusive physicals prior to opportunity for a shower and a snack, and then some well-deserved rest. The convoy consists of 20 to 30 specially designed vehicles or units and a team of some 150 trained personnel who actually safe the vehicle and prepare it for towing. A safety assessment team is also at the shuttle landing facility. They're dressed in protective garb with breathing apparatus. They use vapor detectors to obtain vapor level readings and to test for possible explosive or toxic gases such as hydrogen or other residuals such as hydrazine or ammonia. The vapor dispersal unit, which is a mobile wind machine, blows away any potentially dangerous gases if high levels are detected and the winds are calm. The winds tonight have not been very calm up until now, and this particular unit is not being utilized at this time. Since no hydrogen was present during the initial assessments of our vapor dispersal unit, the convoy operations have continued, and they are now within full reach of the vehicle. The crew transport vehicle has again been placed against the orbiter and has since backed away from the orbiter as all crew members are now on board and in the process of removing their launch and reentry suits. Other vehicles that are part of the convoy are purge air vehicles. They provide cool and humidified air conditioning to the payload bay of the orbiter. And other activities are in work to remove any residual explosive or toxic fumes. The purge of the vehicle normally occurs within about 45 minutes after the orbiter comes to a full stop, and that should be wrapping up momentarily. In addition to convoy operations on the runway, a KSC engineering test team monitors data from the orbiter from a station in one of the Launch Control Center's firing rooms. After the orbiter handover to Kennedy Space Center, this team is enabled to issue commands to the orbiter to configure specific orbiter systems for the tow to the orbiter processing facility. Again, that tow is scheduled to begin at about midnight tonight Eastern Time. Once in the orbiter processing facility, preparations will begin early next year for Discovery's next mission. Again, Discovery landed tonight at Kennedy Space Center. Main gear touchdown occurred at 47 seconds after 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, with a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 47 seconds. Landing on the second opportunity, the orbiter traveled since launch 3,267 statute miles. Once again, our post-mission press conference from the Johnson Space Center is scheduled to begin at 8:15 Eastern Time. Any time now, however, we expect that our 7 crew members should be disembarking from their crew transport vehicle and doing their standard walk-around of the orbiter as it sits at the shuttle landing facility at Kennedy Space Center. Whichever happens to commence first, that event will, of course, continue uninterrupted. And once the event is concluded, then we will go to either the crew walk-around or to the press conference and begin that. That press conference, again, is scheduled to begin at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time and will be coming to us from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.